It'd be quite easy for me just to agree with everything that Dan said, because they are our waste contractor in Devon. So we do work very closely with them. Nevertheless, I do have a slightly different perspective coming from the local authority side of things. I think I'd like to begin by saying how to avoid having any protesters, because to some extent we did achieve that on our Exeter energy from waste plant several years ago now, it feels like, although we haven't started to build it quite yet. And something like 5 years ago, we began our waste awareness campaign that we called Don't Let Devon Go to Waste, which has a sort of approximately 80% recognition as an awareness campaign on the streets of Devon. So if you go up to 10 people and ask them if they've heard of it, 8 of them will have done, which is an incredibly high recognition rate for a public authority sort of campaign. So this was about 5 years ago when we got £1 million from DEFRA to carry out an awareness campaign. And this has developed over the years such that we began by explaining to people why there was a problem with waste, and then gradually via TV, radio, bus backs, 48-sheet advertising, editorials, the whole range of media, we gradually began to get the public to understand the waste issue. Then, sort of a year later, without so much money, because we were on our own then, we gradually get the public to take action. So once they realise why they're recycling, they're liable to do more recycling. So I am getting to the point in a minute, but this campaign has been going on for the whole 5 years. And then when you come to suggest to the public that you need to deal with residual waste, they have a better understanding of why, and the fact that you have done all you can to reduce, reuse, recycle and compost, and put all those facilities in place. And then they then have a better understanding of the fact that you have got to do something with the residual waste. And hopefully that is likely to include energy from waste of some sort. So our strategy, which is our waste strategy, also came out about 5 years ago, and it explained that would be our strategy to reduce, reuse, recycle up to possibly 60% or more, and then we would recover energy from the remainder. So that's worked very well as far as we can see. We've got a 52% recycling rate, and it is inevitable that you are therefore going to have to do something with the residual waste. So we think that the public are already understanding of our position, and therefore potentially of our proposals. So high recycling rates also help, because again you can say that you've done everything you can, but still you've got to deal with that element of residual waste. Then go on to location, and obviously your waste local plan has highlighted suitable sites from a planning point of view, and you've got your strategy alongside that. Interestingly, you'll all know that the public tend to be quite happy with proposals when they're at a strategic level, and everybody agrees, yeah, energy from waste sounds good, obvious, and then gradually as it gets closer to them and all of a sudden it's in their town, their attitudes start to change. Nevertheless, as I said, by at least making them aware of the possibility, it's not a surprise to them perhaps. So location, as far as Exeter was concerned, we were lucky. We had an incinerator there back in '96, and so we were able to squeeze a very small incinerator of 60,000 tonnes on the same site as the previous incinerator. So I should think that probably helped our case a little bit. And also it's very small, so it is only dealing with Exeter's waste and some of the surroundings area. And although that may not be as cheap as a big one. Again, it was relatively straightforward to get the planning permission without a high number of objections and no visible protest. Friends of the Earth did have a stand in Exeter city centre at one point, but it was very generic, really. They did have some postcards which said "ban the burner," which they handed out to people and people sent them to us. But that doesn't really stack up in terms of protesting to us. There was obviously no thought involved. It was just sign this postcard and send it off, without any real reasons as to why they were objecting. So I think, that with the awareness campaign, the location and the size, it seemed to be fairly successful, the Exeter plant, and hopefully we'll be building it towards the end of this year. However, we then had, we've got two other proposals at the moment. One's in Barnstaple, which was again a very similar size, energy from waste plants on an industrial estate with potential for heat and electricity, which again the public they want to see there's something in it for them. And although the electricity may have gone to the grid, the heat was to be used for the local technical college and for the local swimming pool. So again, they can see some benefits as well as the negative aspects. So that's quite helpful. I would say that's on the back burner at the moment. For various reasons. But again, we got a very good reception from the public in the exhibitions that we held. And that tends to be the major way that we do our consultations. We have exhibitions, we don't have public meetings. It's much easier to talk one-to-one to people, to have an in-depth, sensible discussion about their fears. So that's what we did in Barnstaple, 3 days in the town centre. And people kept coming up to us saying, why didn't you do this 20 years ago? So again, very positive response. Again, with the background of an awareness that we think we've given the public over the last 5 years. Then we come to Plymouth, which hasn't been quite so easy. It's a partnership with Plymouth City Council and Torbay, so that brings its own challenges. And there are several sites being considered, or at least there were several. We're down to 2, or we call it 2 now, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2. And in each location there has been a group that's been well prepared, really, on the whole. So there was one site near the Tamar, and the opposition came from across the water because it was going to be very visible to them. And they came and talked to us. We always allow the opposition to sit with us in the exhibition, so we don't try and send them away and say, sorry, this is our exhibition, we'll talk to you later. We give them a table and let them hand out their opposition sheets and try and engage with them rather than sending them away. So there was one group there, and there are other groups also against the other 2 proposals. And I think they're having, I don't know, some degree of success, but they're well established. They've got people like the local MP on their panel for one of them. So they are quite knowledgeable, I think, and they're probably objecting on material grounds, because again, it's very easy to just say, we don't want an incinerator, we're all going to die. But that's not going to have an effect on the planning officers and the councillors. It's got to be sensible, material-based evidence with a sound scientific background, as Dan said, focused on those issues, and possibly with experts representing them as well. And that then we can engage in a much in a sensible dialogue with them.